Yujin asks Riyit what she is doing as she touches Yujin's exposed chest. Riyit gets closer and whispers that he should relax, since they will only be getting to know each other. Yujin profusely blushes at this, and Riyit continues. She whispers how long it has been for her to find someone she truly resonated with, as she slides her hands on Yujin's chest. Yujin stammers that she shouldn't be doing this. He gets desperate, and instead shouts that Riyit shouldn't wear shoes in bed as he points to where Riyit's feet are. Dude, is that really the best excuse you can come up with? Riyit looks at a foot and says she did hear about it being a big no-no in Korea. Disappointed, she slides off the bed, saying he didn't have to reject her coldly. Yujin clutches on the blankets, claiming that he is not in the wrong here, and asks Riyit to leave if she is done with her business. Hearing this, Riyit remembers that there is one more thing for her to do. She looks at Yujin and cutely asks him to be her breeding partner. Yujin pales as he hears this, and he once again curses at Hyuna for making that specific phrase trend. This phrase never gets old, though. Everyone loves using it. Yujin holds his head, feeling lost and remorseful. Riyit acts like a little girl, saying she has this cute little magic beast that needs his care. Yujin looks at her and says she must get in line, since other guilds already made a deal with him. Hearing this, Riyit pulls out a knife and mentions that is the exact reason why she sneaks in and asks a favor. Yujin smirks at her words, but he concludes that this isn't that bad of a deal. Really now, using a knife to ask a favor, she is like a villain at this moment. Riyit is a natural-born S-ranker with an SSS class title. Yujin knows that she is dangerous, but at the same time, it would be good for him if Riyit owed him. Yujin makes his decision and agrees to raise it for her, but it comes with a condition. The next day, Sungin arrives at Yujin's place carrying some ginseng tonic as presents. He steps in, shocked to find that Yujin is on the floor with the rune all in a mess. Sungin asks what is going on as he rushes to where Yujin is. Yujin meekly answers that there were a lot of things that happened, commenting on how rough it was. The previous night, Yujin accepted Riyit's request to raise her magic beast, and he agreed to keep in contact using DMs. He looks at the messages from Riyit, which don't make much sense. Yujin surmised that the translator necklace does not work when typing. Yujin is irritated due to lack of sleep and how Riyit did whatever she wanted the whole time she was there. The bright side is he managed to survive that impromptu visit. Right, all natural-born S-rankers seem to have loose screws in their heads. Sunghan assists Yujin in drinking the ginseng tonic he brought, getting Yujin's morning wash, and cleaning up the house as Yujin rests. Yujin remains lost in his thoughts, thinking it was a relief that none of his friends were present when Riyit visited. It would be total mayhem if they were, and his brother would have difficulty fighting S-grade poison and curse skills. Feeling dead inside, Yujin wonders if he should have just used the keywords on Riyit and made things easier, since he can double the effects with his title. It is easy to say those words, but Yujin snaps out of it as he thinks how problematic it will be if she turns all clingy. Yujin is acting strange, and Sunghan can't help but worry. Sunghan asks if Yujin is okay, and this pulls him out of his thoughts. Yujin says he is fine, and his eyes wander to his surroundings, realizing everything is now clean and orderly. He is so shocked that he asks Sunghan when did this happen. Sunghan says he only cleaned up a bit to help him out. This is only a bit. He already took care of Yujin and cleaned up the house. Does being an A rank give them A rank caring and cleaning skills as well? Sunghan takes Yujin's hands and expresses his empathy for how hard Yujin must have been working to care for those magic beasts. Sunghan tells Yujin to call him whenever he needs help, and he will come running for him. Yujin is deeply moved by Sunghan's offer that he can't help saying I love you to Sunghan, and that he is the best. This made Sunghan happy, and the two acted like a grandpa and his grandson who were bonding together. Experiencing this with Sunghan made Yujin recognize that focusing on the people around him should be his priority over Riyit. Yup, no point in stressing yourself about things out of your control. The system then notifies Yujin that Sungin Kim has reached the minimum requirements to unlock his next rank. This shocks Yujin, and he suddenly grasps Sungin's face to look closely. Yujin uses his skill, promising Sprout, and finds that there are conditions for Sungin to become an S-ranker. Wah! If he becomes an S-ranker, that adds another person to his list. Since Yujin and his brother are now on better terms, he is more comfortable letting his brother know about this development. Yu-Yoon asks if Yujin can really upgrade Sunghan to an S-class, unaware that it is even possible. Lil bro, you should have known by now that anything is possible with your big bro around. Yujin says he ran to his brother's office precisely for this reason. He explains that there are conditions for the unlock, and they can be somewhat tricky to accomplish. He then explains that there are 3 options Sunghyun must meet, and he only has to fulfill one of these to upgrade. The first option is to kill a boss in an A-grade dungeon with only a single blow. The next is for Sunghyun to single-handedly slay an S-ranking monster, while the last option is for Sunghyun to slay an SS-grade monster with only 9 or fewer teammates. Those conditions are insane. But if Sunghyun accomplishes any of these, the rewards are bound to be extremely rare. Yu-Yeon thinks about it for a moment and says the last one is feasible, but there are no SS-class monsters in their country, meaning they would need to go overseas for it. Yu-Jin then suggests going with the first option. Yu-Yeon considers his brother's suggestion, saying Sunghyun has an A-rank attack skill. Still, it is not enough to slay a boss in one hit. Yu-Jin then smiles confidently, saying that he can help with that. Yu-Yeon is slightly confused, but he lets his brother communicate his thoughts. Yu-Jin's plan to upgrade Sunghyun Kim to S-rank starts by having Sunghyun wear all kinds of attack-boosting equipment that he can wear. The next step is to have Yerim buff Sunghyun with Shadowless Day. If you remember Chapter 14, Shadowless Day is a skill Yerim uses to buff or debuff targets. We've seen it before as a debuff where it can hold targets in its location. And the last step in Yu-Jin's plan is to share his double attack damage using his +1 skill. Hearing this, Yu-Yeon suddenly snatches the Yu-Jin doll that his brother uses for his presentation and asks why his brother is a part of it. Yu-Jin says he will go to the dungeon with everyone, and Yu-Yeon asks if his brother is kidding him. Yu-Jin looks at his brother and says that he is serious about it. Yu-Yeon changes his tactic and asks his brother what he would feel if he, Yu-Yeon, is an F-ranker, and he decides to go to an A-rank dungeon. Yu-Jin knows it is a rhetorical question, but he answers it nonetheless, saying he will be worried sick for his brother. Then he adds that he at least has B-shield equipment. Yu-Yeon says that Yu-Jin already knows the shield is insufficient in an A-rank dungeon. Aside from that, they are to face the boss monster. Yu-Yeon reminds his brother that he mentioned it requires physical contact. This only means that he has to be right by Sunghyun as he lands that one hit. He explains how the shockwave of such a hit can be fatal for an F-ranker like Yu-Jin. On top of that, the shield will be useless since it won't work if Yu-Jin is in contact with Sunghyun. That is indeed reasonable, lil bro. Instead of feeling despair, Yu-Jin laughs at this and shows an item to his brother. Yu-Jin asks Yu-Yeon if he remembers the dinner they had with Myung-Woo and with him asking for an item for defense. The item is a golden bracelet that was recently made by Myung-Woo. Yu-Yeon looks at it, thinking it will only be a simple shield. Curious, Yu-Yeon takes the item and learns it is a single-use item with no rank. On top of that, it can nullify all kinds of damages for 10 minutes. Yu-Yeon is astonished by the effects and asks his brother if it is possible. Looking smug, Yu-Jin says this is why he wants his brother to be on Myung-Woo's good side. That is one cheat item. Myung-Woo came up with something really OP. Concluding it is a done deal, Yu-Jin puts his hand on his brother's shoulder. Yu-Jin assures him that Sunghyun will become an S-class tank, making his brother's guild more powerful. And Yu-Jin promises that he will make it happen. Once they had decided, Yu-Jin told this to the concerned parties. Myung-Woo is troubled as he says he didn't make it to be used like that. While Sunghyun tries to reject the whole thing since it will endanger Yu-Jin. It took some time for Yu-Jin to finally convince them, but they still managed to set a date. Before a gate, the raid team is finally set to enter the dungeon. The team comprises Yerim, Yu-Yeon, Sunghyun, Yu-Jin, and Peace. Sunghyun asks if Yu-Jin is sure about this, but Yu-Jin assures him that it will be okay. Peace sits in Yu-Jin's arms as he looks at Sunghyun. Peace is probably leering at him, wondering why his dad must help him. Yerim joins the conversation and says S-rankers are by their side, so it will be okay. As she says this, an S-ranker arrives, and it is Hyuna Moon. Hyuna greets her breeding partner and apologizes for being late. Yu-Jin's party has commissioned an extra S-ranker just to be on the safe side. Hyuna greets Peace as well and asks him for a ride. Peace ignores Hyuna, while Yu-Jin mentions how she really wants to have her own mount. Yu-Jin thinks this number of members is enough for an A-grade dungeon raid. But then, there was a rumble. The sound stopped and was followed by the sound of a step. Someone then asks if he is the last to arrive, while Yu-Jin, Hyuna, and even Peace glare at the new arrival. The man who just came is Hyunjae Sung. He expresses his excitement about what he will experience in this dungeon raid with Yu-Jin. Everyone else on the team glares at Hyunjae as Yu-Jin wonders why this uninvited guy is there with them. Hyunjae is obviously uninvited, but he still acts like he's a part of the team. Even this guy's arrogance is S-class. The low-tier A-grade dungeon Black Golem City is filled with golems and undead monsters, but not anymore. Sunghan explains to Yujin how golems are slow yet durable. The typical strategy for defeating them is to split them up and then destroy them individually. Yujin looked through a pair of binoculars while sitting atop Peace, who used his gigantification skill. Seriously, Yunjae is wearing a suit inside a dungeon raid. Is this guy flexing how rich he is? Yujin brings down his binoculars, thinking that no tactics are being used since everything seems to explode in the distance. Yerim is having fun slaying all the golems with her magic alongside Hyuna. She comments that they are not sturdy but soft like a marshmallow. Sunghan looks at them, saying that it would typically take a week for a team of A-rankers to clear this type of dungeon. But as he looks at the monsters, he can't help but feel sorry for them. Yujin is amazed by the scene before him. Having 4 S-rankers in one team for a dungeon raid is rare. Yerim, Hyuna, and Yu Yun are letting loose as they slay, smash, and explode the enemies in an instant. So why is Hyunjae not doing anything? Yujin never thought he would see such a thing with his eyes. Yujin asks Sunghan why the S-rankers don't do this every time since a team of S-rankers will surely clear a dungeon at the fastest speed possible. Sunghan looks at the explosions as he replies to Yujin. He explains that there are rules that prohibit the entry of more than one S-ranker in the same dungeon. Yujin thinks about it and asks if it is because there might be a dungeon break in a different area, while the S-rankers are busy doing a dungeon raid. Sunghan keeps an eye on what is happening before them as he says that it is indeed one of the reasons, and just says that Yujin will soon see what he actually means. This makes Yujin curious as he looks one more time through his binoculars. It is then that he realizes what Sunghan means. Yerim, Hyuna, and Yu Yun are all damage dealers. As damage dealers, they tend to fight independently and don't even assign roles. Wow, they really lack cooperation. And there is another problem with this. Yerim raises her staff and proudly proclaims she recently got a new AoE skill. She then activates Pale Rain as numerous touches of frost shoot the enemy below her. But before she can totally freeze them, black flames envelop the monsters. With the freeze effect gone, Yerim throws a fit at her boss. She yells at him to move somewhere else, since he ends up melting all the ice she unleashes. Hot air suddenly blows onto Yerim as she speaks. She looks at Hyuna, complaining she's blowing Yu Yun's fire toward her. Hyuna then looks up and tells Yerim to move like the S-ranker she is and dodge. Yerim continues her complaining, since everything she's frozen is now melted. Yep, the problem is that some of the skills get cancelled out. Witnessing how they were interacting, Sunghan, Yujin, and Peace can only stare at how meaningless it is to have a team of S-rankers who can't cooperate. Yujin asks if everyone's ego is getting in the way of them to gain cooperation. But then he looks at Yunjae, thinking that this guy is the most arrogant of all. Yujin starts to wonder why the guy has not moved even though he followed them inside a dungeon. Yujin is stunned at how Hyunjae remains slick even though they are in a dungeon. He imagines the guy is out on a special date instead of a dungeon raid. Oh, is his date Yujin? Does that mean everyone else is the third wheel? Yujin is betting that the clothes Hyunjae is wearing are actually high-tier equipment. As he ponders about it, Yujin starts getting envious of the equipment as S-grade weapon, and even the coat that Hyunjae has. Yujin could easily identify Hyunjae's coat as the Flame Dragon Selikia's wings, an SS-grade fire-resistant gear. He knows that this is the exact coat that gave his brother a troublesome time in the ranking tournament that will be set in the future. If Hyunjae hadn't had this coat, Yu Yun would surely have won the whole thing, not Hyunjae. Yujin glares at Hyunjae, thinking he should snag the coat and put it in his inventory. Without looking, Hyunjae asks if there is anything on his face. S-ranker's instincts are insane. Yujin laughs it off, saying they are graced with Hyunjae's presence, so he can't help but stare. Hyunjae looks at Yujin with smiling eyes as he claims that it is the least he can do, since they are borrowing a dungeon under his guild. Our MC shouldn't say that stuff. It will only encourage Hyunjae to become more willful. Yujin feels frustrated that the perfect dungeon to help with someone's upgrade has to be under Sijan Guild. Yujin tries to get rid of Hyunjae by saying how Hyunjae can go if he wishes since they have things under control. Hyunjae still has his smiling face, but he says he is disappointed since he thought they'd gotten closer. He then admits that he views Yujin as his breeding partner. Yujin screams in the middle of Hyunjae's last 2 words, mortified at how people nonchalantly use that phrase to describe him. Well, it is an apt description. Hyuna abruptly screams from below them, calling for Hyunjae to help them. Hyunjae is the actual third wheel of this party. Hyuna continues to scream at how Hyunjae just showed up uninvited. Yet, He is the one who is slacking from doing work. She then asks if Hyunjae is too old to do this menial work. Yoojin is surprised that Hyuna can talk that way to Hyunjae. Hyunjae asks if the task is too much for them to handle, so they require his help. Hyunjae lifts a hand, and a spark appears. The spark turned into lightning, and the massive flash of light blinded them momentarily as it rumbled on impact right where Hyuna was. Yoojin shrieks and pales as he asks Hyunjae what he did to Hyuna. The Guildmaster of Sejong Guild simply smiles as he claims he only helped. That was too much, man. Even our piece got pale because of that overkill attack. Yoojin says what he did isn't helping and asks if Hyunjae has a grudge against Hyuna. Hyunjae denies it, making Yoojin more frustrated. Yoojin starts lecturing Hyunjae that he shouldn't have done that since she is a teammate, not a monster. Hyunjae smiles at the word teammate, and his golden eyes shine as they look at Yoojin. Yoojin is baffled by Hyunjae's reaction. From the smoke below them, someone starts cursing at Hyunjae. Hyuna manages to survive the attack, but her hair is all fried. Thinking that Hyunjae is picking a fight with her, Hyuna activates her skill, Path of the Wind. She lunges up towards Hyunjae, screaming that he should have at least used gear that is the same level as hers. I doubt Hyuna will win even if they have the same level of equipment. Hyuna aims for Hyunjae, but as he observes Hyuna's trajectory, he shuffles behind Yoojin to avoid the attack. This surprises Hyuna, and her trajectory is now aimed at where Yoojin is. Yoojin, Peace, and Sungin panic. Sungin immediately uses a skill to protect them somehow. Seeing that they are not going to move, Hyuna yells for them to move back since the shield won't hold for long. Then she yells that she will stop it somehow. True to her word, Hyuna hits the ground instead of Yoojin and the rest. The impact is so great that the ground cracks, crumbles, and falls. Too bad the stick figures are smaller than usual. Hyuna sighed in relief that she managed to change the trajectory of her attack. At the same time, Sungin, Yoojin, and Peace are horrified and trembling at what almost happened. Behind them, Yoonjae smiles and claps at Hyuna's exceptional control of her power. Hyuna scolds Hyunjae that he is the root cause of this, and complains that he should have stayed put. Hyuna stops her scolding when a blue, glowing leaf flutters by her head. It was Yoon, and he criticized Hyuna for not being careful around his brother. Hyuna looks at Yoon's arrival. Yoon angrily scolds Hyuna for being reckless, and how Hyuna almost hurt his older brother. Hyuna defends herself, saying it is the exact reason why she changed the direction of her attack, and she didn't hurt Yoojin, so there's no harm done. Yoojin tries to calm his brother by agreeing with Hyuna, and instead points at Hyunjae for starting the argument in the first place. Yup, listen to big bro. Hyunjae is the problem here. Yoon doesn't listen and says whoever started it is not the problem. He then insults Hyuna for having a simple attack pattern that even kids know where it will fall, making it predictable to her opponents. This pisses Hyuna off, and the two grip their respective weapons. I honestly thought that Lil Bro would go for Hyunjae instead. Announcing that they should at least have fun while they are in a dungeon, the two started attacking one another. Appalled at what is happening before them, Yoojin yells at Hyunjae to step in and stop the two. Hyunjae does not intend to butt in, and instead compares S-rankers to top predators that can't help test out who the top will be when they cross paths. And now happens to be the best time for them to test it. Yoojin is unsettled by Hyunjae's words. He thinks about how it took time to convince Yerim and Sungin to come with him in this raid, unlike the S-rankers who were eager to join. Even though they were unaware of the raid's purpose, seeing Hyuna and his brother clash makes Yoojin understand why S-rankers are banned from going on the same raid. They might end up killing each other in the process. Inside the Black Golem's city dungeon, Yerim sings a tune as she happily collects mana stones from the golems that she just slayed. She is filled with positive vibes as she thinks about how she will finally be able to pay off the installments for her Parmeni's Frostwood Trident and purchase other equipment as well. At least one of the S-rankers present is doing her part of the job. Boom, the explosions got her attention and made her wonder what is happening there to have such large violent outbursts. The booming sound and destruction were caused by Yoon and Hyuna, who were still brawling with their skills. Yoojin can't help pulling his hair as he looks at them. He is irritated at how the two won't stop. Sungin and Peace are by Yoojin's side, watching over Yoojin in case he falls while watching the fight. Yoojin is uncertain if anyone can prevent these two S-rankers from causing more chaos. Yoon looks down midair at Hyuna as he prepares to burn her with flames. Hyuna is amazed that Yoon can use his blue willow leaves this way, but she claims that stepping on these leaves won't make much difference. Hey, don't belittle those leaves, Hyuna. Lil Bro learned how to properly use those with Big Bro's help. She attacks Yoon with her spear, and Yu Yun's sword collides with great impact. Sun Han protects Yu Jin from the clash using his skill. Yu Jin can't help thinking that one of them is bound to get hurt if they continue, but he can't really do anything to stop them since he is only an F class. He coughs due to the commotion that the two are stirring up, and Yu Yun quickly looks at his brother when he hears this. Yu Yun rushes to his brother without delay by using his blue willow leaves to leap to where his brother is. Yu Yun asks if Yu Jin is alright if he inhaled smoke, and he readily apologizes. He is worried sick as he claims that it was all his fault. Hyuna manually climbs up to where Yu Yun and the rest are and complains that they are in the middle of a fight. Yu Yun is busy helping out his brother, but he still looks at her and scolds her for lack of self-control when she knows that his brother is present before them. Lil bro, don't act so righteous. We are well aware that you were the other party in this fight. Hyuna is flabbergasted by Yu Yun's claims that she asks for Hyunjae's backup on this matter. Yu Yun ignores Hyuna and focuses on making his brother blow his nose on a handkerchief. Yu Jin glares at them, knowing what he must do to make them stop, even if it is embarrassing. That's right, big bro. The answer to your question is you all along. Activating his acting skills, Yu Jin plops to the ground and places a hand on his head. He then shouts that a frail F-class like him may get hurt if this conflict continues. Yu Yun becomes more worried for his brother while Hyunjae and Hyuna watch them. Yu Jin continues his monologue by saying that these S-classes defy him and that he is starting to get sick to the point that even healers won't be able to heal him. Hyuna panics a bit, asks if F-rankers are that weak, and apologizes. That level of acting seems to work even on Hyuna. For S-classes, they are pretty gullible under the whims of Yu Jin. This makes Yu Jin profusely glare at her, straining his eyes. This makes him scold her and points at Peace and Sungin, who are behaving well. Peace proudly accepts the compliment, while Sungin is a bit uncomfortable. Yu Jin criticizes the S-rankers to stop causing problems and to get on with the raid. Hyunjae still has his smiling eyes despite getting scolded, along with the other two troublemakers. Yu Jin then pulls out a hat and a whistle and starts instructing the S-rankers on what they should focus on. Sitting atop Peace, Yu Jin is at his element and commands them to go to specific locations for the raid. They all end up following Yu Jin's directions, and Hyunjae comments that this is a new experience for him. This is now the new norm. Better get used to it, Sejong Guild Master. Yu Jin looks at the three S-rankers dispersing to heed his orders, thinking that splitting them up is the most efficient method for clearing this dungeon. The system suddenly notifies him that he received a new SS-grade skill called Stern Mother Henin Drill Surgeon. It describes how the Awakened is willful and defiant, but if this skill is used, the description of the new skill is cut off, making Yu Jin complain about the skill name and description. Now that is the real cheat. He gets a new skill for doing that. The system watched over Yu Jin, and Deer claims is perfect. Water Droplet hears this and pulls on one of Deer's antlers. He threatens Deer to not do it again, or just bye-bye to his antlers or fingers. I'm guessing it was Deer who wrote that description. Yu Jin is unaware of what is happening within the system, so he simply dismisses it in the meantime and just thinks about how he at least got an SS rank skill. It is now nighttime inside the dungeon, and their party has decided to camp in the ruins. Sungin says they might clear the dungeon the next day at their current pace, and Yu Jin agrees to this. Yu Jin looks up, remarking on how they at least have a roof over their heads and wonders what kind of building it was before. Sungin looks up as well, saying they were unable to find anything that would help them decipher what it was. Yu Jin thinks about how the system mentioned other worlds before. Yu Jin concludes that the dungeon they are in is one of the worlds that has fallen into ruin for being unable to stop the dungeons. This makes him ponder if their world would turn into shambles if they failed, and if influencing 50 S-rankers will genuinely help in this endeavor. Our MC should really ask the system what the quest is for and how this can help his world. At their campfire, Yerim complains about how she has been left out of the fun. Yu Jin admonishes her for even thinking about it. Yu Yun says she lacks the experience and equipment to do so. Yerim angrily rebuts that this is not a pay-to-win kind of game. That is where you are wrong, kid. Life is a big pay-to-win kind of game. Nonetheless, Yerim decides to sell off the mana stones she got to somehow stand toe-to-toe with them. Hearing her admit it, Hyuna teases Yerim for getting dirty while collecting those stones. Not willing to lose, Yerim says Hyuna's hair is burnt, and Hyuna panics, asking which of the two jerkwads did it. Meanwhile, Yu Jin notices that his brother is intent on polishing his sword. Hyuna is worried about what her sponsors will say about her hair, and Yerim thinks she should just cut it off since that is way more convenient for dungeon raids. Hyuna smiles as she admits that keeping her hair long for her advertisements is in her contract. Her guild markets her as the elegant beauty of her guild. which makes Yerim confused. Hyuna was glad of Yerim's reaction that she jumped her. After settling down, Hyuna admits that the dungeon is the only place she can be herself. She wondered what it would be like if the Breaker Guild had no sponsors, and was instead independent like Hayan and Sejong. Hyunjae replies that she can remove the leash if she wishes, as he drinks from a fancy teacup. I'm sure he brought the whole tea set, but bringing it into a dungeon? Well, if that is what makes him happy. Hyunjae says those sponsors only care for the profit they make from dungeons, which is the exact problem with MKC. He continues, saying that many can never really understand hunters like them who can easily clear dungeons like any typical day. Hyunjae gets serious and bluntly states that S-rankers like them are already different species. He's saying the same thing that the system told Yoojin before. Yoojin mulls over Hyunjae's words, comprehending the truth in those and ponders if his brother is the same. Hyuna speaks Yoojin's thoughts by commenting on how Yoon is entirely different when it comes to his brother. Yoojin looks at his brother, wondering if Yoon is only holding back because of him, and if Yoon is not really the sweet, adorable brother he always thought of. Lil Bro must be different because of his big bro's personality, so there's really no need for our MC to worry. Yoon feels his brother's stare and asks if his brother is okay since he doesn't look good. Sungin looks at Yoojin as well and suggests a rest. Everyone else follows suit, and Yerim offers her bunny doll while Hyuna gives him her sleeping bag. These S-rankers are weird. They are bringing unnecessary stuff in a dungeon raid. Yoojin is grateful but can't help feeling something is amiss. Yoojin asks if they will also be resting, and Yerim says they can go without sleep since they are S-rankers. Hyuna adds that they will take turns 2 at a time so no one burns out. Yoojin smiles brightly at this, then gets all serious as he asks if they are not planning to take turns fighting instead. The S-rankers flinch at this, except for Hyunjae. Yoojin then asks what the potions are for on Yerim's chest, why Hyunjae put on new gloves, and if this is why Yoon is so busy sharpening his sword. Yerim makes an excuse. Hyuna scolds Hyunjae for being obvious, while Yoon is like a kid caught doing something bad. None of you can escape our MC's discerning eyes. Yoojin sternly tells them they can only hunt monsters, and if he catches them, he will tell Myung-woo that they didn't listen. Yerim complains that she only has the trident, and she still hasn't built up her own equipment like the others. Yoojin simply bids her to not fight as he tucks himself to sleep. Yoojin is well aware of how hard it will be to collect 50 S-classes, so he intends to take baby steps toward it, but the world doesn't let him take those measures, because on the next day, before them is a giant monster. He is now sure he will be forced to climb a mountain. This manhwa loves jumping to exciting scenes whenever a chapter ends. Shimyeon congratulates the flexing Sungin for becoming an S-class. Yoojin carries a bouquet to present to him, but Sungin throws it away, saying he is leaving the guild and doesn't need any teammates. This is utter BS. No way Sungin would do that. This change shocks Yoojin. Unperturbed, Sungin challenges Yoon to a duel, and Yoon accepts it. The rest of the S-rankers appear to want to join the fight, and it starts the battle of S-rankers. Yoojin tries to stop everyone by yelling. This jolts him awake, and Sungin looks at Yoojin, asking if he's okay. At least it was only a dream. They are still in the dungeon, and Yoojin dreamt all of those. Peace is still asleep by Yoojin's side, but Yoojin makes a ruckus that wakes Peace. Yoojin tells Sungin to never go freelance after he becomes an S-ranker. Sungin calms Yoojin by saying he is Haeun's shield and asks what brought this up when he was sleeping. Yoojin finally realizes that those were only a dream. He shares how he dreamt of everyone fighting, causing the building to collapse. Peace licks him, but a sudden flash of lightning occurs behind them. Yoojin notices this and checks his surroundings. Sungin is unable to say anything about it, and another flash appears. Understanding dawns on Yoojin's face. Hyunjae and Hyuna are now fighting. Oh no, bad kids will get scolded. Hyunjae says they should get back to business, giving Hyuna time to heal herself with a potion. Hyuna remains stubborn and asks why Hyunjae is there with them and if Hyunjae is after Yoojin. She tries to dissuade Hyunjae, reminding him that the guy is only an F-ranker. Hyunjae smiles, saying Hyuna shouldn't discriminate and that he only wants the company of such a dauntless and confident person. I'm sure there are more reasons why he wants our MC for himself. Hyuna doesn't let Hyunjae continue and attacks with her spear instead. Hyunjae is not to be taken lightly. His chain stops the spear from going further, keeping it from taking his head. Hyuna claims that whatever Hyunjae is planning, he should remember that Yoojin is off limits since Hyunjae might only end up breaking him. Hyuna swiftly moves behind Hyunjae for another strike. Still, Hyunjae is at ease as he uses his chains to attack Hyuna, making more crackling sounds because of his lightning. Unable to evade all the chains, Hyume uses her spear to destroy some of them. As she claims that Hyunjae is known for breaking all of his toys, the fight has gotten fierce, making the movement imperceptible. Peace, Yu-jin, and Sungin just arrived nearby. Sungin tells them to stand back, but he is stunned by the pressure the two S-rankers emit. He is horror-struck and unable to do anything. But Yu-jin starts shouting about stubborn kids who made a mess in a dungeon. Sungin is stunned by Yu-jin's actions. Fear resistance is very effective and resembles Kim Docha's fourth wall. Hyume and Hyunjae stop fighting and go to where Yu-jin is. Yu-jin starts complaining that they didn't heed his words and start hissing at Hyuna like a parent admonishing his kid for ruining her clothes. He continues to rant while Hyume murmurs at Hyunjae about him being right about Yu-jin being dauntless. Our MC is steadily becoming a pro in handling stubborn kids, even if they are outside his skill's influence. Yu-jin continues, but there is a sudden rumble that makes him pause. The S-rankers remain unperturbed. The system suddenly appears and tells him to run because of a breach. Yu-jin wobbles, but the others don't realize something is wrong. So he continues to say that dungeons are dangerous and suddenly shouts for everyone to run as far as they can. Right then, the rumbling gets stronger, and everyone finally notices it. Sungin activates his shield to protect Yu-jin from the falling rocks. Yu-jin asks where his brother and Yerim are, and the two arrive just in time. Great timing. I just hope these two are not fighting as well. Yerim shouts for them to escape because the rumbling comes from where they are standing. She yells that something is about to come up from the ground. They escape just in time as a giant monster toad rose from the ground. Hyuna looks up in bewilderment, wondering if it really is a monster. Yu-jin lands on the ground beside his brother, asking if it is a monster. Yu-jin affirms their suspicions, letting them know that the beast is called Babar the Mountain Devourer, a Class 1 giant toad species, and the one before them is an SS-ranked giant monster covered with fortified boulders. They are all surprised that there is an SS-ranked monster when the dungeon is only A grade, while everyone else seems to be panicking. Hyunjae looks at Yu-jin as he mumbles how Yu-jin saw it coming. Hyunjae surmised that this crisis was no coincidence and wondered what else Yu-jin could be hiding from everyone. He really has a sharp intuition. I just hope this won't put our MC in danger. Blue is flying around with a towel on his head. The guild staff tries to stop Blue, but the golden griffin refuses to listen, while Chirpy happily chirps at the other magic beast. The guild staff is tired from looking after them when Chirpy suddenly starts banging on the door with his whole body. The woman asks what's wrong as she opens the door for Chirpy, asking if Chirpy wants to go into Daddy's room. She then explains that he is not here right now. Chirpy is shocked that Daddy is not around. Looking all crestfallen, he chirps as he looks around for Yu-jin. The guild staff goes back to chasing Blue, saying that Daddy will be back tomorrow, so there's no need to cry. Our poor Chirpy. Monster Daddy can't bring you with him since the place he went to is dangerous. Chirpy cries, then he suddenly gets angry. Resolved that if his dad is not around, then he will goad him. He chirps loudly, and blue light starts to buzz before him. The light gets bigger as Chirpy continues to peep, and a symbol appears with the words Master of Dimensions. It's a legendary grade skill, and it opened a portal for Chirpy. Is Chirpy like Yu-jin? An F-ranker with L-rank skills. Through the portal, he sees his dad atop Peace. This makes him stop crying, and he steps near the portal. But before Chirpy can even pass through it, Blue squawks as he crashes on top of Chirpy. Blue happily rolls over while the exhausted guild staff worries if Chirpy is okay. The portal buzzes away before the guild staff even realizes it is there. It will be a huge surprise if Chirpy appears right when they are busy fighting that giant toad. Back in the dungeon, Yu-jin's party looks at the SS rank monster that just appeared. One of them comments that the beast is at least slow, but that it takes a step, causing a loud boom, and destroys the ground it just stepped on. Yes, more stick figures. This lazy kind of drawing is real art. The place is slowly getting destroyed as Babar steps. Everyone gets away, and Yerim suggests using their gate stones to escape the dungeon. Yu-jin says they can't do that because it might become a dungeon break. Yu-jin recalls how this same monster destroyed a rural area in China by slowly crawling out before he regressed. Yu-yun decides and says they should try their best to defeat it. Yu-yun leaps away while Yerim flies in the air. They remind Yu-jin to stay back and for Summon to take care of Yu-jin. Yu-jin tries to stop them, but they are already charging towards the enemy. Oof, there they go running without listening first. Yerim casts Shadowless Day on Yu-yun as a buff since her attack skills are useless on an SS rank monster. Yu-yun then dashes toward the enemy, summoning Black Flame in his hand and shoots it to Babar. Sun Han says this SS skill of the guild master might just do it. Yu-jin yells for his brother to aim for its nape. Yu-jin thinks about how they can slay the enemy since everyone present has a fantastic combination of skills. Yu-yun lifts his sword and brings it down to slash Babar on the nape, but this is not enough to bring the monster down. Yu-jin surmises that it would be possible if they fought this monster after 5 years. The team lacks the experience, equipment, and better stats that would give them the edge in defeating Babar. Does this mean this fight is pointless? Yu-yun's attack didn't damage much, and Hyuna told him to move. She uses a pinpoint strike on the back of Babar's neck and cracks a bit of its boulder. She manages to wound it, but as she lifts her spear, the wound immediately heals itself. Hyuna is disappointed that her equipment is no good against the monster and tells Hyunjae to use his SS-ranked chains. Hyunjae summons his chains and tries a different tactic since they can't break its skin. He wraps his chains on Babar's upper body and applies his lightning skill on the chains, sending them to Babar. The burst of light is blinding and seems to have worked on the monster. Yu-jin covers his eyes, thinking this is not enough to defeat this monster. The attack angers Babar, making it leap. It causes great destruction as it does so, making them panic in the chaos. The only exception is Yu-yun, who remains indifferent. They didn't show Hyunjae, but he's probably calm as well. Babar lands on the ground, making a gust of wind and loud booms, destroying the earth and the ruins nearby. The team manages to escape, and Hyunjae comments that they can't anger it into leaping again. Right, it was you who made the monster do just that. Hyuna looks at the beast, asking for ideas on how they can do that in one strike. Babar has already healed itself, making it harder for them to kill it. Yu-yun tells his brother to leave the dungeon since it might get more dangerous. Yu-jin speaks up and says that they can still slay it if they all work together. He explains how throwing skills randomly won't make much of a dent, and it would be best to use a combination of attacks that aim for its weak spot. Yu-jin starts giving instructions to everyone. He tells Yurim to freeze the nape and Yu-yun will quickly heat it up. Yurim understands Yu-jin's plan. She compares it to how a cold glass will break when hot water is poured, and the immediate temperature change will weaken its hard skin. Hyunjae looks at them and asks Yu-jin if this is an insight from his magic beast tamer skill, and Yu-jin just agrees to it. Hyunjae really is trying to learn more about our MC's abilities. Yu-jin continues his instructions, saying that Hyuna should follow after them. Hyuna hesitantly wonders if the plan will work since Babar's self-healing skill is almost instantaneous, and they have never worked together before. She explains that doing a practice run will only anger Babar. This plan will only work if they can connect telepathically. Yu-jin reveals that it is possible. He explains that executing an attack combo with perfect timing is the most crucial element of this plan. If they are unable to achieve perfect sync, the plan will fail. Yu-jin announces that he can make that happen with a skill of his. It may not be flashy, but they need it right now. And it is the skill Yu-jin just got yesterday, the Stern Mother Hendril Surgeon. Wow, if they have the luck stat, our MC would be brimming with it after regressing. Right, who would have thought a new skill would be the answer to their problems? Yu-jin explains how he got a skill that can help them coordinate better. Yu-yun asks his brother about it, and Yu-jin says he somehow unlocks some conditions to get the skill. Yu-jin looks at his new skill and finds the description updated. It explains how the skill can sync multiple targets to coordinate their movements. Yu-jin wonders if the writing style somewhat changed halfway. Our MC is right about it changing halfway. The first half was written by Deer, then it was continued by another member for the sake of clarity. The skill requires intelligence and mana, so Yu-jin brings out mana bottles. He starts drinking a bottle as he tells Yu-yun and Yurim to stand together. The skill description explained that if the skill is rejected, Yu-jin might suffer. He tells the two that they must accept it and starts activating the skill. A book with the skill symbol appears, along with magic circles that indicate the mother hen and her chicks. Yurim and Yu-yun accept the skill, and Yu-jin starts seeing the point of view of both Yurim and Yu-yun. Their eyes glow as it indicates the activation. Aside from their perspectives, Yu-jin can feel every sensation they feel, as if he is in their bodies. This also gives Yu-jin the foresight of what they are about to do and say before they even do so. This is too much. It's like KDG's main skill, omniscient reader's viewpoint. Yu-yun starts speaking, and Yu-jin finishes the sentence for him. Yu-jin announces that he will now sync the two. The two flinch, feeling surreal about what is currently happening. Hyuna asks what exactly happened. Aram explains how her boss body feels like her own, making her able to tell how he would be moving, and it even helps balance their strength. To explain it further, Yaram uses her spear and brings it down in a big swing that causes a blast of wind. At the same time, Yu-yun lifts and changes the position of his sword. Hyuna looks at what happened with disbelief. The tips of Yerum's trident and Yu Yun's sword are perfectly aligned in a single move. Hyuna is so amazed by this that she quickly asks Yujin to do it for her as well. Yujin gulps another mana bottle, so it really requires a lot of mana to pull this skill off. He then explains to Hyuna that she is responsible for breaking open the skin of Babar right after Yu Yun heats it up. She will be writing peace to lessen the flame's effects on her. This news brightens up Hyuna's face. She celebrates and brings out a saddle and a fire-resistant item while Yujin calms peace as he asks for a favor. Yujin decides that there is something else that he must do. He looks at his jacket's inside pocket, saying he has something for Hyuna. Hyuna asks what it is. Yujin thinks that this skill is easier to use if the target is already under his influence, so what he must do right now is apply the keywords. Yujin brings out a finger heart, saying he has his heart for her and the words "I love you" while winking. He thinks they have been close enough to do it, and he can pass it as a joke if it doesn't work. Dude, you watch too many K-dramas. The words make Hyuna puke, making Yujin think it is a big failure. He tries to make up for it by saying that he is just showing his appreciation for receiving her help in this and that she remains cordial despite his yelling commands. Hyuna smiles at this and says it is stupid, but she lets it go, saying that Yujin reminds her of her trainer's back when she was an athlete. The system then notifies him that Hyuna Moon is now under his influence, confusing Yujin. Yujin turns away from her and smiles, though he is a bit nervous. Hyunjae then says it is probably his turn right now, while Yujin thinks about how hard it will be to control this guy. Yujin recalls how the skill will be harder to cast if the target has high stats. Left with no choice, he tries to influence Hyunjae by saying "I love you" nonchalantly, calling Hyunjae sir. Hyunjae's smiling eyes are on, and he comments on how Yujin calls him sir. Yujin tries it again and says "I love you, Hyunjae." But the keywords don't work on Hyunjae, so he reminds him not to reject the skill. Wow, special service. Does this mean there will be a third time? Hyunjae feels the activation of the skill on him. He looks down at Yujin, and instead of accepting, he rejects the skill. Yujin suffers due to the rejection, and he glares at Hyunjae. Hyunjae claims it was only a light tap, making Yujin curse him. This guy is a real prick. Yu Yun asks what happened and if Yujin is okay. Yujin is pissed, but he assures his brother that he is okay. To make up for what he did, Hyunjae lends his SS-grade fire-resistant coat to Yujin, saying it would at least keep him safe. This action makes Yujin recall his plan to just take Hyunjae's coat. Yujin calms himself as he looks through the perspective of 4 different S-rankers in peace. He compares the feeling to a teacher in charge of disobedient preschoolers who are making a play. Yujin then closes his eyes, thinking that he will feel better somehow. He tells everyone to make short work of it since he is not sure if he can use the skill for long. They all proceed to their respective places. Sunhan is on top of a cliff with a bow and arrow. Yujin ensures that Sunhan makes the first hit to make his participation in this dungeon boss subjugation count. This means instead of option 1, they will do option 3 for Sunhan's upgrade to S-class. It is the right call since there are less than 9 of them at this party. Sunhan positions himself and pulls an arrow. He releases the shot towards Babar with his power ingrained in it. He hits the exact spot, but does nothing to the monster. Yerim is flying above Babar and confirms that it didn't even make a scratch. She announces that she will now make her move since the first hit is done. She activates Shadowless Day, followed by Frosty Side. She gathers all the cold energy to her staff and announces that she will only hit a single point of the monster's nape. After gathering cold energy in her spear, she unleashes Pale Rain on Babar. She hits the exact spot, making Babar's skin freeze. She calls for Yu Yun and then moves away using her Sandals of Hermes skill. Yu Yun approaches as he gathers Black Flame in his hand. He stops mid-air and releases the Black Flame right where Yerim hit Babar. The flame swirls and immediately melts Yerim's ice. Yerim is amazed that it easily melted and asks how hot it could be. It is more amazing how everyone is cooperating so far. Yujin admits it is hard for him to breathe even though he only shares the sensory input. Hyuna then appears while writing peace. She reassures everyone that she is sturdy enough to bear the heat. She repeats the order to smash once it is all soft and announces that now is the perfect chance to do it. Yu Yun looks over, thinking that Hyuna is right about it being at its weakest point. However, they still have to wait for the perfect timing to do so. This is because the flames haven't died down enough, and she should hit it before it heals itself. Oh, if Hyuna misses the right timing, either she will end up in flames or Babar will heal before Hyuna even manages to attack. Yujin starts thinking of every variable involved in this attack. From Peace's speed, Hyuna's agility, the remaining time for the flames to die down based on his brother's senses, and the moment for Hyunjae to hit it with the last attack. Yoojin gets dizzy from all the information that his nose bleeds. Hyunjae sees this, so he grabs Yoojin's arm and puts it around him. Hyunjae reminds Yoojin that it is almost their turn. He tells Yoojin to not worry about his timing since he can figure it out for himself. Instead, Yoojin should focus on Hyuna. He claims this to make up for earlier, making Yoojin reply that he'd be a good student if that's the case. Yeah, a pretentious good student. Yoojin reminds Hyunjae to keep physical contact so that he can share the skill. Hyunjae brings out his chains as Yoojin closes his eyes to concentrate on finding the perfect timing. Hyuna prepares to attack, and Yoojin determines every tiny detail that can affect this attack. After a short while, Yoojin determines it and uses his connection with Hyuna to relay to her that exact moment. Hyuna and Peace receive the message and lunge toward the burning mess at the nape of the Babar. At the same time, Hyunjae carries Yoojin with one arm as they dash toward the enemy's back. Let's all hope they make it in one piece. Dungeon breaks cause much damage to the world, even though the monsters from before were low-ranked. As time passed, the dungeons got harder to clear and stronger monsters appeared. And soon, there will be a time that S-rankers must cooperate to defeat the higher-ranking monsters. For Yoojin and his current party, this is that exact time. Yoojin is fortunate to receive a command-type skill. Yoojin is well aware of how intrusive it feels to have someone control you, but it could be considered harmless if it is an F-ranker like him. Wow, it is a Ratatouille reference. With this new skill of Yoojin, they are making history as the first coordinated raid by a group of S-rankers. With the thrill of facing a strong enemy running in their veins, Peace dashes to Babar's weak spot. Hyuna raises her spear for a stab. They reach the exact spot, and she pierces her spear with all her strength. Yurim is so glad that Hyuna did it despite the scorching temperature of the flames. Hyuna maniacally laughs at her success. Even though she's getting burned, she is bursting with glee as she proclaims how amazing it feels. Green goo appears as Hyuna pulls out her spear. Carrying Hyuna, Peace leaps away, and more green stuff splashes out of Babar. This must be that toad's blood. Babar opens its mouth as a green sticky substance flows from its back. Hyunjae watches from above, thinking that is the spot where he must stick his chains in. Yoojin, whose eyes are still closed, tells Hyunjae to go all out since he can use his bracelet as protection. Hyunjae prepares for his attack. He already received Yurim's buff, and now Yoojin activates the effect of his veteran F-ranker title. The effect is instantaneous. Hyunjae increases his chains and lightning runs through them. His eyes widen as he felt how Yoojin's buff had doubled his skill attack damage. Multiple chains pierce the back of Babar's neck and lightning zaps through them. Yoojin can tell how overpowered this is, while Hyunjae still feels amazed that he can't help giving a genuine smile. Hyunjae continued the electrical discharge on Babar, causing a massive blast of light throughout the dungeon. Once Hyunjae releases it, the nape of Babar gets completely destroyed. Its eyes turn white, and it falls with a big thud to the ground. Just wow. They should do more coordinated dungeon raids with a group of S-rankers. Yurin looks ecstatic as she asks for confirmation if they really did defeat it. The fall of Babar causes a vast rumble, and the ground is still getting destroyed due to the impact. It causes a giant explosion on the ground. Everyone must move back to avoid any fragments thrown in the chaos. Knowing that they won't make it in time, Sunhan tells them to move back. The system appears and notifies that the upgrade condition is now fulfilled. Sunhan Kim's stats and skill proficiency also increased. Sunhan activates his shield skill, completely deflecting all the rocks coming their way. Yurim is so amazed by this and asks how it is possible. I guess only Yoojin, Youyun, and Sunhan are the only people aware of this raid's real purpose. In a different location, Yoojin and Hyunjae land in a farther location, unaffected by the fall of the monster. They watch as Sunhan activates his shield skill and protects everyone else. But before Yoojin can even admire this, he tries to hold himself steady with the support of Hyunjae. He is worried if everyone is okay, but he is in no real position to do so as his nose starts bleeding again. Knowing he is about to faint, Yoojin tells Hyunjae that he will nap, so they should do their best not to fight. Yoojin faints before he finishes his sentence, and Hyunjae grabs Yoojin's arm before falling to the ground. I doubt this guy would listen. Sunhan's shield skill remains activated as the ground calms from its rumbling. Babar is now dead, and this is proof enough how the first high-class coordinated attack ended in success. With Yoojin unconscious, the SS rank skill Stern Mother Hendril Surgeon is now deactivated. But this skill is so potent that it still leaves the Tarbits with a lingering connection with one another. Hyuna gushes affectionately for Peace, complimenting the magic beast as she hugs it tightly. Yurim and Yu Yun look at one another and clap each other's hands with their accomplishment. Still, they immediately feel awkward about it and turn their back on one another. They all felt the relief of defeating an unbelievably strong enemy. With their previous connections, they form a sense of camaraderie. I hope it lasts long. Sun-Han runs towards Yu-Jin and Hyun-jae and asks if Yu-Jin is okay. For Hyun-jae, it was not the excellent coordination that lingers. Instead, he still relishes the feeling of how his power was doubled. He feels euphoric about finding a source that could make him more powerful. But let us wait for Yu-Yun and the others to arrive first. For now, let us cut to where the system is. Their newbie claims that the real target is Yu-Jin and complains how this wasn't supposed to happen since Babar is a monster that will take 5 years before it comes out. Behind him, Deer is lying face down on the floor while Tree is repairing the system. Yep, that is the punishment for playing around with the descriptions. Newbie is still panicking and asks the others if the filial duty addicts are behind this. Tree calms him down since the attempt is made within Honey's world and not from outside. The merperson says someone tried using the teleportation skill to go to Honey. This makes Newbie confused since it would require at least SSS or legendary rank skills to do that. So Babar popped out because Chirpy tried teleporting to a dungeon. Yu-Jin's lil kid caused a big problem. The system gets back a visual of the dungeon where Yu-Jin is, and they are glad that Babar is taken care of immediately. Tree admits how he thought they would have to do more for this feat, so he said to give everyone a lot of rewards. Merperson checks beside Tree and observes that something isn't right. On their screen, they see Hyun-jae crouching where Honey is. Back to our MC and his unruly kids. The others still haven't arrived. Yu-Jin is still knocked out from his skill, and Hyun-jae looks at him like a delicious food up for his picking. Hyun-jae asks who Yu-Jin truly is as he thinks he can wait for their contract to end if it is for Yu-Jin's magic beast hammer skills. But Yu-Jin somehow became more appealing to him as time passed. Hyun-jae knows that Yu-Jin is hiding a lot, from the foresight of what is to happen, the precise timing of his getting a command-type ability, and most of all, Yu-Jin's ability to share a double attack damage skill. Having felt it for himself, he could never let go of that kind of power. Hyun-jae looks at his hand with a dark face as he mulls over things. Hyun-jae is disappointed that such abilities come from a person, not a simple item. Hyun-jae believes he could get it for himself if it was an item. He carries Yu-Jin again, one hand over his shoulder, as Yu-Yun lands beside Sun-Han. Yu-Yun asks if his brother is okay and says he will take his brother. Hyun-jae doesn't let Yu-Yun finish and says he will keep Yu-Jin. Oh no, that's a wrong move, mister. Lil bro is the type who would do anything for his big bro. Yu-Yun is shocked by this, but Hyun-jae simply brings out his chains and claims that he will feed and take care of Yu-Jin from now on. Hyun-jae announces that he will take this with him. Hey, our MC is not an item. Undoubtedly, you're jerkwad number 1 in Hyuna's contacts. Yu-Yun is furious at this claim, while Hyuna, who just arrived with peace, comments that Hyun-jae truly is out of his mind. Yaren reaches the group and also hears Hyun-jae's insane proclamation. She tells him to give Yu-Jin back. Sun-Han and Peace glare at Hyun-jae as they prepare to attack. Yu-Yun repeats it to hand his brother back to him. Yu-Yun's sword is unsheathed, ready to make a move if necessary. Hyun-jae glares at Yu-Yun, thinking that an Iridan is still clinging, and wonders if he should just kill him. He is still in physical contact with Yu-Jin, so he still has the double attack damage skill active. He ponders if he should just make an excuse that everyone else died because of Babar. This guy needs a proper beating. Everyone else looks at Hyun-jae's every move, ready to pounce if he makes any attempt. Hyun-jae is still thinking about the repercussions once they get outside the dungeon. Still, he is snapped out of his thoughts as Hyuna pierces her spear and pulls it out to point at Hyun-jae. Hyuna reminds Hyun-jae that while the rest will hesitate to attack in case Yu-Jin gets hurt, she is different. She won't hold back in her attacks if he makes a mistake. She tells Hyun-jae that he better listen now that things are done. Hyun-jae changed his views on gauging the situation based on what Hyuna just said. He thinks about how Yu-Jin's bracelet is now broken and quickly comes to a decision. He removes Yu-Jin from his shoulder and gives him up, making an excuse that nobody is on his side. He hands Yu-Jin to Hyuna, and immediately, Yu-Yum attacks Hyun-jae once his brother is gone from his arms. Lil Bro is a literal hothead. Expecting this attack, Hyun-jae uses his chains against Yu-Yun's sword, claiming he is nice, and returns Yu-Jin. He then asks Yu-Yun if he is attacking because he is not wearing his fire-resistant coat, which makes him conclude why Yu-Jin wants it for himself. Yu-Yun gathers Black Flame in his hand and throws it at Hyun-jae, but Hyunjae easily deflects it with his chains. Fire versus lightning. The two prepare to unleash their best, but before they can even do so, a blast of ice gets between them. Yerim yells for them to stop and reminds them that they must get out of the dungeon with Yoo-jin. Hyuna yells for Hyunjae to stop acting like a kid and harassing the other kids. She then throws the precious coat to Hyunjae while she yells for Yoo-yoon to take care of his brother, or she will throw Yoo-jin on the ground. You shouldn't have done that, Hyuna. Yoo-jin really likes that coat. There goes Yoo-jin's chance to take it for himself. Yoo-yoon removes his coat and threatens Hyunjae to not even think about getting close to Yoo-jin. Hyunjae ignores the threat and says he can't do that since he likes Yoo-jin. This makes Yoo-yoon glare at the older man, and Hyuna yells for them to stop. Yoo-yoon prioritizes his brother and covers him with his own coat. Hyuna tells Yoo-yoon to not mind the pricks, since this might turn for the better. If Hyunjae really likes Yoo-jin, he will surely take care of Yoo-jin and ensure his safety. Yerim scolds Hyunjae as Hyuna talks to Yoo-yoon. Hyuna reminds him that Yoo-jin is not as fragile as he thinks. Yoo-jin is resting, yet he grinds his teeth as he mutters how they should not fight. Those are extraordinary senses, big bro. You can tell they are fighting even in your sleep. Things have settled down, and the group leaves the dungeon. After that dungeon raid, news spread about the appearance of an SS-class monster in an A-rank dungeon. This brought great tension to everyone, hence details of the raid aren't revealed to the public. To give everyone a good news, the news of Sunhan's upgrade is released to the whole world. In a different place, a few locks of hair fall to the table, and a guild staff member calls for her guild master. She screams her lungs out when she finds Hyuna shaving her head. Hyuna claims she shaved it since her hair is burnt. Her staff worries that their sponsors will get angry with her guild master's actions. Even the Breaker Guild staff calls their sponsors old geezers. Hyuna says she doesn't really care and that they should at least be glad that she didn't shave everything off. She leaves the room, claiming this is a small matter to get so uptight about. The woman who used to worry about the opinions of her sponsors is now gone. Everyone who participated in this dungeon raid is about to experience more changes. From Yoo-jin's appearance as a magic beast tamer, the awakened with blacksmith skills, the upgrade of an A-ranker to an S-ranker, to even the successful cooperative attack of S-rankers who never worked together before. This is the dawn of a new age. In Sejong Guild, Hyunjae is on the phone saying how the plan changed. He gives instructions for everyone to prepare themselves for returning to Korea, including the twin siblings of the venomous curse, Dragon Dio Valshisis. What? That crazy natural-born S-ranker is one of Hyunjae's people? You're getting more sus by the second, Hyunjae. Every change happening right now makes the cogwheels turn, and in the center of it all is our MC. Chirpy tries to wake Yoo-jin by continuously pecking him with his beak. Chirpy sees that Yoo-jin is starting to open his eyes, so he gives him a good body slam in the face. This shocks Yoo-jin into wakefulness. Yoo-jin sits up because of the attack and asks Chirpy if he is hungry. Chirpy peeps at Yoo-jin, trying to tell him things, but Yoo-jin is then called by Yerim and the others. There are tears in everyone's eyes except for Sunhan. They are glad that Yoo-jin finally regained consciousness, but the welcome overwhelms Yoo-jin. He asks why everyone is there. Yoo-jin looks at his clothes and thinks about how he fell asleep in the dungeon due to exhaustion. Seeing that he is wearing hospital clothes, he asks if he has slept for a long time. Myung-woo frantically yells that Yoo-jin slept for 2 days. Our MC must be exhausted with using multiple skills at once, considering that his MP is also low. Sunhan assures him that the doctors who looked at Yoo-jin said nothing is wrong with his body, so there is no need to worry too much. This makes Myung-woo glare at Sunhan as he shouts how Yoo-jin overworked himself to the point that he has to sleep for 2 days. Myung-woo continues to complain that although their team has 4 S-rankers, Yoo-jin still has to exert himself. Myung-woo is so angry that Chirpy joins the scolding. Sunhan and Yerim apologize for their inability to care for an F-ranker. Yoo-jin can't comment on this since he finds that Myung-woo has gotten so scary in such a short period. Yes, his caretaker is scary. If one makes a mistake, it's goodbye to the chance of getting stronger equipment. Trying to change the subject, Yerim says Chirpy kept crying, so they got permission to bring him over. She asks Yoo-jin if she should take Chirpy back so that he can rest more. Yoo-jin smiles, saying it's okay. Yoo-jin holds Chirpy in his hands and pets him as he asks Chirpy if he missed Daddy. He then remembers the purpose of the dungeon raid and checks if Sunhan managed to upgrade. He opens his skill, My Kid is the Best, and the photo album of influenced S-rankers appears before him. There are currently 5 on his list. Aside from Yoo-yoon and Yerim, Hyuna, Sunhan, and Peace are now on his list. I wonder if Hyunjae will ever become a part of this list. Yu-jin confirms that Sun-han is successful in his upgrade, but he is more shocked to find that peace is also in his book. Myung-woo sees the change in Yu-jin and asks if he is okay. Yu-jin wonders what exactly happened for peace to grow quickly while Yu-jin is asleep. Clearly agitated, Yu-jin announces that he's going to see peace. Myung-woo says that the doctors told him he should stay another day, while Sun-han says that Peace and their guild master left for a dungeon raid. Yu-jin is startled to learn that Peace is now with Yu-yoon. Yu-jin remembers that Yu-yoon told him about an S-grade dungeon that he manages. He then asks why Sun-han didn't join them. Sun-han and Yerim nervously share a look, clearly thinking how much they can say. Yerim makes a choice and avoids eye contact as she reveals that only Yu-yoon and Peace went inside the dungeon. What the? Yu-yoon is so adamant about his brother entering a dungeon. Yet, here he is, making his brother worry for the same reason. Yu-jin is so shocked by this news that his eyes widen with dread. He lifts his mouth into a smile, but Yu-jin is obviously anxious at this news. Yerim and Sun-han then explain what happened before they entered the dungeon. Everyone on the team is preparing for the raid near the gate. The others are excited to finally experience a dungeon raid with Peace. Still, Peace suddenly uses his gigantification skill and bursts into flames. This shocks the other guild members, but they find this fantastic instead of scary. Wait, do you mean to say that Peace became an S-class all on his own? Yu-yoon sees this and asks what happened, while another asks if Peace has always been this big. Peace continues to flare, and Yu-yoon observes how Peace has grown with its fiery fur and extended horn. Peace growls as he stares at Yu-yoon, and Yu-yoon returns the look. Yu-yoon suddenly shoots his black flame, making a clear line between him and Peace on one side. This surprises the other members, who are confused by their guild master's actions. Yu-yoon then commands everyone to get out, and only he and Peace will be entering the dungeon this time. Did these two reach an understanding with just a look? I guess they do make the perfect partner for each other. Yu-jin makes an incomprehensible face in this story. With his furrowed brows and frowning mouth, Yerim asks if Yu-jin has finally calmed down. Only Sun-han, Yerim, and Chirpy are left with Yu-jin in his hospital room. Myung-woo is sorry that he has to go because he has work and cannot help with the current situation. Yu-jin is still irritated, but he knows he can do nothing now since the gate is already closed. 10 minutes earlier, Yu-jin was creating chaos at this news. Everyone is trying to stop him, but he doesn't care since his fear resistance was activated then. He reflects on his previous actions, but Yu-jin cannot remain calm. He curses that his stubborn brother went into an S-grade dungeon with only him and Peace. Lil Bro will surely get much scolding from Big Bro once he returns. Yerim calms him down by telling him to lightly breathe in twice and release a long exhale. Sun-han reminds Yerim that she is teaching a breathing technique for women in labor. Yu-jin can't rest easy as he thinks an S-class dungeon will take at least 10 days to clear, and the two won't be able to rest since there are only 2 of them in it. Yerim ignores Sun-han and reminds Yu-jin to breathe. Yu-jin somewhat heeds the breathing technique, though he is still frustrated. Sun-han says they would be okay since they have gate stones. Yerim agrees, and as a master of changing topics, she asks Yu-jin what rewards he got from their last dungeon raid. This distracts Yu-jin somewhat, and Yerim pushes Yu-jin in that direction of a subject by showing off her rewards from Babar. Yerim probably just wants to flex her new gear. Yerim received the Mermaid Queen of Sea Waves earrings, a pair of elegant blue gem earrings. This SS grade equipment increases her mana and mentality stats and lets her move underwater. Aside from this, it adds 30% to the skill effect of her water and ice-related skills. Yu-jin is amazed by these effects, saying that Yerim will be unbeatable when she's in water. Yerim is so proud that she says she will be raiding all the underwater dungeons using this. She looks far into the future, thinking how this will make her a lot of money to repay her debts. She shares how she managed to repay at least half of it after clearing the dungeon where Babar was. But then Yerim suddenly slumps, thinking how she will again go into debt once she buys new equipment, and she still needs to purchase ice-resistant items for her raid team. Yu-jin smiles at this, commenting how she still has a long way to go in achieving those goals. She starts complaining that she can't borrow equipment from the guild since her attributes are the complete opposite of their guild master. Yu-jin looks at Yerim fondly while thinking that she is steadily growing. She used to be an A ranker before regression. Now she is an S ranker who receives guidance from the veteran hunters aside from those in the Haeum guild. Yu-jin continues to smile as he daydreams about how much Yerim will grow in the future. The difference in her life from before to now is so vast. It is an excellent thing for her that our MC sought her out. Sun-han and Yerim whisper to each other, thinking that they successfully distracted Yu-jin from what happened. Sun-han decides to follow Yerim and shows the reward he got. which is a gate stone. He also shares his gratitude for becoming an S ranker after this raid. Yujin is like an old man, and Sunhan and Yurim are the grandchildren trying their best to ensure the old man doesn't get stressed. Yurim continues the topic and asks what Yujin got as a reward, saying she is really curious about it. Yujin checks his inventory and finds an SS grade item within. Yurim is amazed that Yujin got an SS rank item as well. Yujin clicks on it, and it glows bright blue, shocking everyone. The object appears with a blue aura around it. The item is called the Nameless Demon King's Old Spinning Wheel. As the blue light disappears, Yujin and the rest take a good look at the SS grade item. Yujin says it is an old spinning wheel used by a demon king before. Chirpy climbs the wheel, taking a close look as well. Sunhan wonders if the item was used for threading, while Yurim thinks it is a weird hobby for a demon king to pick up. Yurim needs to meet Sadao Mao, and she'll gain enlightenment. Yurim puts the spinning wheel in Yujin's head, wondering if it is meant to be equipped. Yujin lets her do as she pleases while saying that the item seems to be a material or an ingredient instead of equipment. Yujin holds it to his head, with Chirpy still atop the wheel. He thinks the system would have purposely given this to him for a reason, and he should ask them about it. As he thinks of the word dungeon, his mind suddenly makes the connection. He thinks of an S-rank dungeon and how his brother and Peace are entirely on their own inside one. Yujin becomes gloomy, and Yurim and Sunhan are shocked at the change. Suddenly, Yujin starts cursing again because of his stubborn brother. Yurim reminds Yujin of the breathing technique to make him calm down. As the big bro, Yujin can't stop himself from worrying. After some time has passed, Sunhan checks up on Yujin in his room and finds that he is not asleep. Sunhan thinks that Yujin is only spacing out since he can't see Yujin checking out Yuyun and Peace's status with his skill. Worried, Sunhan says that this is an early symptom of dementia. This shocks Yujin, so he grabs the remote control claiming that he just can't sleep and will watch TV instead. The TV opens with a news show about how Sunhan Kim will soon be appointed Vice Guild Master of Heian Guild. This makes Yujin look at Sunhan with shock since the man being reported is right before him. Sunhan is a bit shy as he admits how Yurim was also considered for the position. However, she is still studying, so the guild chose him for the role. The guild made the right choice in choosing Sunhan. I just can't imagine Yurim as the Vice Guild Master. This makes Yujin look at Sunhan with proud admiration. Yujin clasps Sunhan's hand, announcing that he is the best man for the job and how he looks forward to it. Sunhan says his thanks, while Yujin says that they should celebrate the party for his promotion. Sunhan claims it is okay since many people already congratulated him, and even the Hanshin Guild sent him a bouquet as congratulations. Yujin is amazed at this and remembers how Minyu Park paid close attention to Sunhan. Sunhan says he has a connection with them since he was part of the Hanshin Guild before. Now we're learning more about Sunhan's past. This is the first time Yujin has heard about this, so Sunhan explains it further. He says the guild is under the Hanshin group, and he was colleagues with Mingyu back then. Sunhan received an offer to marry the owner's daughter after he awakened as an A rank, but after that, Mingyu awakened as an S ranker. So instead of Sunhan, Mingyu met the daughter and got married, and because of this, Mingyu became Hanshin Guild's guild master. Oh, so there was a case of arranged marriage. Yujin thought it would be a good story to hear, so the sudden turn to drama shocked him speechless. Sunhan is calm as he tells how his relationship with Mingyu became strained. Yujin compares it to a K-drama plot, and he is completely hooked. Feeling giddy, Yujin asks if Mingyu is afraid that he might lose his position as a husband and that it will be stolen. Sunhan misses the point, saying he was only an A-ranker then. Though Sunhan admits that the bouquet came with a letter saying he should stay in Heian for good. Yujin trembles at this news, thinking he is right in guessing the actual plot. Our MC's imagination is so wild that he is physically affected by such things. Sunhan remains nonchalant, saying he is relieved the Heian is now stable. On top of that, Hanshin Guild doesn't see them as a threat despite their current number of S-rankers. He explains how Mingyu's personality is humble and how, unlike other guilds, he's not really out there to make Hanshin stronger. Yujin looks at Sunhan, thinking how this man puts more weight on the welfare of the guild rather than his own. Sunhan smiles as he reveals how others said that his opportunity was stolen back then, but the truth is, Sunhan prefers how things are right now. He admits that he has no desire to become a guild master and feels more comfortable as a supporting character. Sunhan promises Yujin that he will continue to support their guild master. Yujin admiringly looks at Sunghan as he recalls how this same man cared for everyone from getting crushed by the rumbling rocks from Babar's fall. This proves how Sunghan will be a great team player despite becoming an S-ranker. Among the S-rankers, Sunghan is undoubtedly the most obedient of all. Yujin is so happy that his brother's guild will have a bright future with the presence of Sunghan. He smiles cheerfully as he expresses his delight at having Sunghan beside him. Yun pops out of the window as he agrees with Yujin, commenting that Sunghan is a veteran in this profession. Yujin and Sunghan are shocked by the appearance of Dakibi, while Yun calmly greets his boss. Yun gives a bag of food, saying he brought it as a gift so that he can eat it as well. That reasoning is perfect for gluttons. Sunghan is worried it might be dangerous, but Yujin assures him that Yun is his friend. Chirpy looks at Yun and the food in wonder. Yujin takes advantage of the situation and says I love you to Yun for taking the time to visit him. Yujin hands him a drink as he thinks about how he already influenced Yun and if there was any progress in his teleportation skill. Yun eats the food he brought while holding the drink and Chirpy in both hands. Yujin uses his skill on Yun, and a message appears saying they are an incomplete species. It then adds that an essential item similar to its element is required. Yujin is confused by this message, as he wonders what incomplete species are. Yun is so busy eating that he mistakes Chirpy for a dumpling. In Yun's defense, Chirpy looks a lot like food. Yujin mulls over the system's message on how there should be similar elements, then thinks about how Yun's fundamental element was an old water wheel. This thought gives Yujin an idea, and he takes the SS grade item he got as a reward. Thinking that both are old wheels might be why the system gave it as a reward. Yujin holds the nameless Demon King's old spinning wheel and asks Yun if he needs it. Yujin explains how he got it as a reward while Yun holds it and gives it a closer look. Yun says it belonged to a Demon King before and the item is older than him. Yujin is surprised that Yun can appraise it. Yun describes a Demon King as a scary being with big horns and a strong body. Yujin doesn't think much of this and simply agrees. Hearing Yujin's agreement, Yun decides to become a Demon King then. Yujin asks what Yun means and how he will become a different species. Yun wants to scare people, hence he chose to become the Demon King. Yujin cannot finish his question, and the SS grade item starts glowing, and dark tentacle-like power emerges. They were so shocked by this development, but Sunghan quickly activated his shield to protect them. Sunghan asks what this is, but the dark stuff takes hold of him, and Yujin panics as he asks Yun what he is doing right now. Yujin looks at Yun and sees the big horns, bat-like wings, and even Yun's hair has turned dark. Yun claims he will become a Demon King since those are scarier beings and laugh loudly. Yujin is overwhelmed by the change and uses his skill to check Yun's status. Currently, Yun is an SS ranker. His classification changed from Dakibi to a Class 1 demon named Demon King Yun. Does he really have to become a Demon King just to scare people? Yujin is horrified at how Yun turned into a Demon King, as Yun proclaims he is now one. This makes Yujin question if this was the right thing for him to do.